welcome to Haunted Holidays, our live fundraising streaming event. If this is your first time tuning into Diversity Saves, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization made up of passionate BIPOC, LGBTQIA, neurodivergent, and disabled TTRPG creators, actors, and fans who wanted to create a means to amplify voices not only in the community but in the works we consume across the industry. We are committed to promoting and uplifting marginalized communities in the tabletop role playing industry, and with funding from donors, seek to aid the community with grants for marginalized creators, provide TTRPG supplies and materials to educational and recreational centers to promote education and creative exploration, and uplift voices by providing a platform for underrepresented creators to promote diversity and inclusion. So far, our grant program has given $7,000 back to the community to bring projects to life. And that is what we are here for today. So, without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to our amazing Rahrah.
Hello, I'm Rahrah. I'm going to be amazing. Tonight we are playing Fall in Love Like Ghosts by the Sea, which is a little one-pager I made up of falling in love and possibly becoming a ghost by the sea. I will go into our incentives and a little bit about the game we're about to play after we meet our amazing cast. I go by he, they pronouns, and if you're just listening, I'm a mask presenting Latin male that looks kind of like an aged hipster who might carry around a camera. I'm going to roll a die to see who. All right, Yuri, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd love to. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Yuri. That is Yuri, pronouns she, they. You guys can go ahead and find me at Yuri and the Beast absolutely everywhere on the internet. I'm sort of an AP nomad, do all kinds of things, go on all sorts of channels and games. So just keep an eye out.
Fantastic news. Bodacious. Groovy. Dryad, Suzanne, who are you? Welcome to the show.
Why, hello there. My name is Susan Quintana. I am a teacher, gamer, writer, storyteller. You can find me on Instagram at neither right nor wrong. That's right, like WRITE. I am also the producer, uh, editor, host of a podcast called Novel Games. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, any podcatcher of your choice. I've been playing games for a long time, and I'm so excited to fall in love and maybe be a ghost.
Both wonderful things. This is a fun Circle 8 for me because Suzanne was my GM last year on this event on this channel, and that's how we met. Let's see if Kim gets a turn. Kim, who are you?
Oh wow, I get a turn. Hi, I'm Kim, she, her pronouns. You can find me everywhere on the interwebs at Dew on a Tree. Do like DEW, like the drop. You can mostly find me over on Five Gems in a Trench Coat. We are a Crit Award winning and multi-award nominated TTRPG actual play podcast. We swap GMs and systems each season. So you can find me over there. I do the social media, audio editor, sound designer. I wear too many hats.
Kim is an amazing audio designer. I run a tiny podcast called The Heart is a Dungeon. I forgot to mention it. But five GMs in a trench coat, that's really where your attention should be. So today we're going to be playing Fall in Love Like a Ghost by the Sea. This is a game about people talking about love and maybe getting sad. There is a change mechanic where you can become different. In the first time I ever ran it, you could become kind of a sea monster. In the second time, the AI would lose their memories. People have played this game in strange ways. In this time, if we hit that mechanic, we will join many ghosts who walk around this city. So there are donation incentives. For $1, you can choose a player and tell them what role you want them to make between speak, feel, or believe. For $5, you can pick one for every player to have to roll. $10, every player takes a step towards stay or change. Change is becoming a ghost. Stay is choosing to remain not a ghost, stay. $25, and one player fully shifts into being a ghost, where their moves and mechanics change. $50, whoo, spicy. Every player but one changes into a ghost. So those are those mechanics. For safety's sake, I have GM'd, met, and played with just about everyone at the table in one of those categories or another. We did go over safety. There is a lot of romance in this game. You will not find gore or, brave adventures going through caves to hurt families to take experience points. This will be more about romance and sadness and regret and loss, but also joy. So, content warnings for joy and sorrow and I'd say explicitly described romance, the feelings of it, the heart of it, not the spice of it. So take care of yourselves, and if that's not your deal, that's fine. There's other wonderful streams on tonight because this is going to be romantic as fuck. So, did I do okay, Kim? I'm pretty bad at intros. Did I cover everything?
Ah, you killed it this time. Good
Amazing.
job.
This time, awesome. So before we get going, I'll actually need each one of you to roll a dice so we can see the turn order, as I'll be going first because of the intro paragraph business. Four,
Oh,
four,
6.
six. Okay, so Yuri is second, or should
Oh
I say
no.
Sophia? If May and Carmen could roll again to see who will be going third. Oh, heck, deal. So that will be Carmen and then May. Wonderful. So there is an initiative in this game for anyone watching, but it's more just to take turns. Like, you want your own space so you can monologue properly, as you do. And I'm about to show you that. But first, I'd love to tell you about Hindsight. It's a small town, mostly in disrepair, perfect for this story. It is nestled up against a woodland of mostly eucalyptus. There's a few basic shops, a hotel with a single diner and attached, and an adorable tea and coffee shop. Though everywhere, without explanation, there is the smell of smoke. On the pier, you'll find a mostly shut down carnival of sorts with a broken carousel, a broken roller coaster, but a world class funhouse and a Ferris wheel that is still turning. There's also a glass bottom boat that gives tours of the Bay of the Half Moon. There is a cemetery that the train tracks stop up against, which would explain why this town is so full of ghosts. You see them wandering around, lost and unsure, sometimes drawn to the sparkling holiday lights like a moth, as we now see the lights line the pier, line the trim of the buildings and various doorways, for surely it is the holidays. As you can see, we're all dressed very festively. And now, with that intro done, I am going to go into my turn because we are playing this in the GM-less version. So we will all be narrating sort of our own scenes, and I'm going to now shift out of that role, and now I'm just a player. Oh, it's nice over here. Less prep. But you see Jonathan Kasuga Gray, closer to 30 than 40, with a camera around his neck, walking towards the town from the tide pools where he has been taking pictures of the beautiful parts of life. His shoes are dangling from two fingers as his pants are kind of rolled up to his ankles. You see a Latin male presenting figure with a camera around his neck and, hipster vibes. As I'm approaching the area, I would look to the town to try to find my wife. Sorry, it's still so new. But my eyes would scour this dusk happening behind it, the seagulls now passing by, and I would look for my wife. I would look for May. I don't know if I could see them from here. But as I'm walking up, I would speak to the wind. And this is where I will do the first roll, and I will roll for speak, which I did not choose as my preferred one. Okay. That is a 1. Is that good or bad? That's the question. Talk about the sea. That's fine. And I will add 1 to my stay mechanically. As I'm walking up, like I would hear the ocean and I think imagine how the entire globe comes to an end right here. At least half of it, at least part of it. And I'll think about how May and I met here originally and how that years of a life, just like the ocean, came to an end here and a start here. And now we're here again. It's probably not the first time I've thought about May while staring at the ocean, and probably won't be the last. But this is a special time. The air's crisp. My feet are colder than they should be for being so wet, but I'm excited and nervous about this new chapter as I walk beside the sea, which is always the same chapter. I would go to the town, I think, and try to find May. Yuri, if you'd like to tell us about you and then take a move.
I would love to. So, in that quaint little coffee and tea shop, you see a tan woman, not very tall, curvy with a red dress and long, wavy brown hair, who is sitting with a teacup in front of her. And she seems to be by herself, just listening to the people, listening to the sea, and very in thought, just taking it all in. And I will go ahead and roll to feel. Let's see. Oh, I rolled a 4. Share a story of the sea. So, Sophia used to come here very often. She is thinking about her ex, who in this context, as opposed to most of the time, is actually a good thing. You see, he is not here anymore. He is not with us anymore, which is the only reason that he is her ex. And in this small tea coffee shop, even though she is inside by the window, she can still hear the sea. And the sea, that sound makes her feel him there with her, because they used to spend so much time here listening to the sea, running around and being that lovesick couple running by the waves in the beach, just barefoot, but with their normal clothes still on. And so the sea always makes her feel his presence. And she feels him as if he was sitting there across the table from her as she listens to the waves. Yeah. And that's going to be my turn. I don't remember who was next, though.
Suzanne or
All right.
Carmen.
Yes. My name is Carmen. You see her sitting on a bench several yards off of the shore. It is one of those memorial benches that beaches sometimes have. And you see her sitting there with an arm draped along the back of it, and her thumb is going across the plaque of the name of the person's name that the bench and this stretch of land that couldn't possibly belong to anyone belongs to this ghost here. The scarf that she is wearing is flying around her wildly, and she doesn't really seem to mind. And she is watching the shorebirds, which is one of her favorite animals in the world, as they totter along on their long legs and beautiful, beautiful groups. And as she's sitting there and thinking, she is going to believe. So I'm going to roll believe right now with 2d6 because that's. So I'm in actual play mode. I'm describing the mechanics. So here we go. I rolled 2 2s. The universe has spoken. So I am going to create a piece of art and tell us what it says. I'm going to get up from the bench and I'm going to head out to where I saw the shorebirds. And I'm going to look for detritus on the sand. There's always different kinds of kelp. There's always driftwood. And this season, there's always the bones of things as well. There's shellfish, there's larger creatures that have washed up and died a very long time ago that nobody wants to touch because it usually stinks pretty bad. And I want to find pieces of those things, and I am going to create a shape with them. Not intentional. I think I close my eyes as I do it and just create whatever I am feeling in the moment in memory of all of this loss that is around me, the memorial bench, the pieces of dead creatures, and I create something that looks like a little hill, the couple pieces sticking out of it, and I kneel there in the sand and just smile happily at what I've done.
May.
Hi. So you see May Kasuga Gray, and she's walking. She's about 5'5", lighter skin, very rosy cheeks. She looks terribly cold. She has this large sweater draped around her neck and her hands. She's holding them very close to her chest, to her heart. And she's just walking. And she is looking for her partner, partner, husband. Um, Not necessarily in a rush, kind of looking around and taking in the scenery, this place. She knows she'll find him. They always do. And I think as she's doing this, she stops and she finds herself at the mouth of the pier, the very edge of it before you enter in. And I think she looks at it, even though it's kind of broken, worn down, loved. She looks at it and she closes her eyes. And I'm going to roll for my feel. This is where I have 2 dice. And we're gonna see what I get. Um, you said that you get to choose your favorite, right? Not necessarily just advantage. Okay. I'm going to go with 1. Um, Connect with your heart truly. Tell us who you are right now. Um, so in this moment, as I'm holding both of my hands close to my chest and I'm looking out on this pier, I feel very similarly how I felt a handful of years ago when I was first here. Um, I am looking and I'm slowly walking into the pier with the same sort of weight in my chest, and not necessarily a weight as in heavy, but a weight that is waiting for change. And I walk and I look through this pier, and I think, especially in my eyes right now, it looks way more lively. The lights are on. There's probably the ghosts of kids laughing and going through and running around with their parents and going, ah, let's go to the fun house. Let's go to the mirror house. Ah, I want to go on the merry-go-round. Um, and yeah, I think that's what I'll do for right now. That'll be my turn.
Jonathan has now reached the pier from their walk down the sand, and they take that moment to breathe as anyone would who has had the freedom to think about the one they love with no distractions and has to enter into crowds and children and voices, the world constantly trying to pull one away. In the distance, I see a woman on the beach making a little pile, and I pull my camera up and take a shot of her in front of this strange mound of bones. Take a picture of the Ferris wheel. I wish I could see May, but this carnival still appears to be in the way, which is a very apt metaphor for how the whole world seemed until I met May. Uh, Last time I was here, I was married, but it wasn't to May. Um, Everything changes. The carousel's still broken, but now I walk this place without a sense of dread, without a sense of fear, but a sense of, it took a little longer than it should have, but it feels I'm finally on the path. And I think the first stranger I see, I picture him as like an old fisherman with a twinkle in his eye and some sweaty teeth. I think I'm just going to look at him and speak. As though I'm almost in a musical and all the emotions are right at the surface, the sincerity moving through all of us now. And speak, I roll with a single one. It's a 5. Tell them how you love them. So I'm going to look at fisherman Cletus right here, who looks like they've had a day. It is dusk. They've probably been out on the sun. And I'll look at him and be like, when I think of her face, I imagine a country before a single fence was built. Just nothing but open potential for joy and exploration and freedom alone. So when I'm here with all these people, all of you kind of feel like fences. You keep stopping me from being with the one I love, Cledence. And then I'll just walk past him while smiling and wish him a happy holiday while he stares at me confused. I'm eyeing the cafe that Sophia is in because a warm drink sounds great. I'm eyeing the woman at the mound in the distance, just making sure they're okay. But I'm still looking for May. Most of my life has been spent this way, even if I didn't know that yet. And that'll be my turn.
Sophia, finishing her tea, and with the presence of the one she loved so much there with her, stands up and walks outside. She sees to one side the empty beach for the most part. She thinks she can see one person in the distance. And on the other side, the noisy, bright, lively pier with bodies coming in and out. And she turns away from them both, facing the other side, towards the forest, towards where a small cemetery lies. And she spent actually most of her day there. But the sea reminds her so much of him that she thinks maybe I'll just go say hello again really quick before I leave. And so she turns and walks towards it, now wishing she would have worn something warmer, now away from the people, the noise, the warmth of bodies and buildings, feeling a little bit colder as she reaches the cemetery. And she is going to speak. I get to roll 2 dice for this. Oh, oh, perfect. 5, tell them how you love them. She reaches a cemetery and sees this small stone with a name carved upon it. And as opposed to so many, actually, most of the other stones in this place, looks fairly new. Most of them are old and worn, of grandparents, great grandparents who have been lost to their families for a very long time. It is a small old town after all. And this new stone looks so out of place with the rest of the town. As she puts a hand on it and just says, I was gonna go back home, but I decided to have tea in our favorite spot. And you know how much the sea makes me think about you. So here I am again. You really make it so hard to leave. This place is just not the same without you. And that is going to be my move.
I am still on my knees in front of my masterpiece, and I'm smiling in that way that tiny children are when they've drawn something horrible, but their soul is on the page. And from my jacket, I'm going to pull out a thin bundle that's wrapped up in rubber bands, and I'll snap the rubber band with my teeth, and it's gonna fly off in the wind. I'll have half a second of feeling bad about that before I turn back to the bundle of postcards in my hand. And I'm going to slowly flip through them, and they are from different places that are all up at the border of where the United States meets Canada, and then down at the border where the United States meets Mexico. They're just from all of these different places, but there's clearly a theme of two places touching together for a little bit, and yet clearly divided. And I'm gonna look at the shoreline in front of me as it comes towards my beautiful work and then fades away again, almost like it's playing chicken with me. And I'm gonna realize that I've put myself in a kind of place where it is two very distinct places that come together as one for a little bit while being very separate. And I'm going to look down at the postcards in my hands. And I'm also going to speak. Everybody's saying things, so I think I will as well. Stop it. I also rolled a 5. So I'm going to do the same thing, which is tell them how you love them. Looking down at the postcards, I rub my thumb over a name in the same way that I rubbed my thumb over the plaque on the bench. Even though this person is not dead, they are not a ghost in this place. Like there are other ghosts in this place. They are a ghost in my heart, though, and that is the same thing almost. And I say, you know how much I love you. And that is part of the problem. I love you like this shoreline, always returning again and again, when nothing new is ever going to change. And I'm going to begin to very slowly start burying the postcards in the art in front of me. That's the end of my turn.
I continue slowly walking along this pier. I take in the sound of the waves crashing onto the shore and the sounds of joy that speckle themselves along the pier. And I stop in front of, one of those little carnival games where you have like this little like water gun things and you like race with the other people to try to see who can get there first. Um, and I'm going to roll a speak. I only have one die in this one. And I roll a 4. Um, promise more than your heart can give. I take a look at this game that's currently lit up and has so many noises. And I just, I pull my hands closer to my chest underneath my scarf, and I just, oh goodness. I know you don't know me, as I say to the person who's running this booth. Have you ever felt something so overwhelming and so monstrous that you have to share it with someone? You have to let someone know, because if you let someone know, then it's real, right? I and I think I think I pull out like my hand with my ring on it. And I hold it to my scarf. I goodness. I love this person. I love them so much. And it feels overwhelming sometimes, and it feels scary. And I've made a lot of promises. I've made promises that I will try to be the best version of myself that I can be for them. And I've made promises that I'll love them fully, even through all of their flaws and through all of the little mistakes, because they're still a human, although I think that they're perfect. They're still human. Um, I've promised that even though both of us have lost someone, um, that won't change. And I don't think it will. Because when you love someone so overwhelmingly, you change the size of your heart to continue growing with that. And I just hope I can keep those promises. Sorry for just dumping this on you. I'll keep walking. And I put my hands back to my chest and I keep walking down this pier. And that'll be the end of my turn.
At this point, Jonathan's moving a little faster, getting his shoes on, not minding the sand that will now exist within his socks for the rest of the night. He is jealous for anyone who can see May at this moment, for anyone that can hear May, for, oh, to be a hand woven underneath that scarf, he thinks to himself. He pulls out a small piece of film and eats it as he moves through the pier. Every time he kisses her, he wants her to learn about who he's been. There's so much time to catch up on. There's so many years of stories that have yet to be tapped. And that part of him that still believes in magic, that will still cross a country and come to this terrible little coastal town just because it's where a story began, believes that everything can change everything if it's done with enough pureness of spirit, pureness of heart, as though we can't outbelieve the universe. So he moves through this crowd a little faster. You can hear it on almost the tip of his tongue. He's almost, and he doesn't yell it out, but he wants to. He wants to be that free with what he wants and not feel restricted by facade or face his own. When he sees May, because I think at this point he might find you. And at first he approaches with the passion of like the honeymoon era and then slows with the pace of, we haven't really had that much time together. There's still this nervousness. There's still this timidness. I'm happy my shoes are on because she might stare at my feet. There's just this vulnerability with the way they want to be generous and safe with each other at the same time. But I think as I walk up and almost go to hug, then pull back behind you, almost go to just like take your hand, but not sure if that's the vibe yet. We just don't know. I think I'm going to also roll to speak. And I roll a singular die for this one. Another 4. Promise more than your heart can give. So maybe coming in right when you're done having this conversation with the individual at the game, but not picking any of it up. You do notice a presence kind of coming up behind to the side of you. If your hand was down, he would take it, but he knows it's in the scarf. He knows how cold you get. So you just hear a whisper, "We'll always be this happy." And I think that's going to be my turn.
Sophia is still there with a hand on the little stone on the ground with the all too new name carved upon it. As she gets a message and her phone buzzes, kind of breaking her out of this thought that she was lost in. She picks up her phone and looks at it, a little miffed at somebody interrupting this moment that is so special to her. This moment that she knows she's going to get to relive once a year for the rest of her life. Though this one being the first one, she knows feels the strongest, the best, the worst. And she looks down at her phone and it's her family. They are asking her at what time the train leaves so she can be back. What time do they have to pick her up from the station? She does the math, tries to remember what is the latest time the train leaves from here. She wants to lie and say she got a little caught up with something, so she has to take the last train. There is no other option. She knows they'll understand. She knows they probably know the truth. They know she wants to stay as long as she can. They won't fault her for it. She knows that too. as she types in her lie regardless and sends it. She loves them as well, but they are here and they will be there when she gets back. She is going to roll. Ooh, a believe. Let's do that. I get 1 dice for this. Ooh. I rolled a 6. You have a fear and say it. After sending in her lie to her family and putting her phone away, she looks back at the little stone and places her hand upon it again. And she says her fears in that moment to him. You know, I think I'm afraid you might have taken a part of my heart with you, you know? And I feel a little guilty knowing that to those who you left behind, to those who you left me with, the others that I also love, I'm never going to be able to give them my full heart. I'm never going to be able to love them fully because part of my heart has been buried here with you and it will stay here. And I don't know if that's okay. I don't know if they can tell. They can tell that some of my love got buried when you did. I don't know if they can tell that when I go back, I do love them and I will give them the love that I can give. But it won't be with my full heart because I don't have my full heart with me anymore. And that's going to be my move.
I've just finished burying 3, 4 years worth of postcards in the sand in this pile. And my hands are cold. my my face and my hands are cold, and there's sand in my shoes, and the water line is actually getting closer. So I stand up and I have a lot of feelings in me right now. So I'm going to feel. Oh, tell us how love has changed you. My back is to my art piece, and my back is to the water, and I'm looking at the town in front of me, and I start to tear up. And I say, just to the air, because my friends are tired of hearing me talk about this failed future, the things we lose to become who we can't help but be, are sometimes too much. And with my hands in my pockets and anger in my heart, I start to search for somewhere that's warm.
I was taking a few steps to the pier further in, and I feel a presence, warm, inviting, and I knew we'd find each other, as we always do. And I turn around, and it hits me just as the waves do when they crash on the shore. And I'm going to roll a feel. These are two very interesting ones. Um, I am gonna choose the 4. Share a story of the sea. And as I turn around and I look at them, and they're there looking a little haphazard, like suddenly the search for each other became slightly dire as the nerves and the emotional dancing sits between us. I feel like I did one night. He loves to swim, and I don't particularly. He somehow talked me into going to the beach one night, saying that this is the perfect time to capture things that come out only when the moon can hear. And we swam. The water was freezing, but he was there, so it was okay. And we got out of the water and we found this little fire that was beside, set up probably for those who feel the pull, the need to swim at night, because who would do that? And that night, I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it was the way the salt water was sitting in his hair and the way the fire kissed his face and the way that the wind felt on the droplets on my skin and the way in which I felt safe. I felt a feeling I hadn't felt in quite some time, really. And I, that night, I threw the formalities and caution to the wind slightly, and I kissed them. I did. And we had spent so much time dancing around each other's toes, and that moment just felt right. Maybe it's because the sea felt right for that one night I decided to do something I wouldn't have usually done. And I stare at them with that same tenderness in my eyes right now as I see him with put with the film in his camera, staring at me. And that'll be my turn.
Thank you so much for the donation, Amanda. Um, Everyone made sure to mark towards change or ghost. I think as he sees you looking at him seeing you, The dance almost continues where I notice that there's the glare of the dusk in your glasses, and it also gets in mine sometimes. So I put my hands on your hips and turn you slightly, but then you see that it gets in my eyes, and you put your hands on my hips and turn me slightly. And it's almost like this strange waltz we do, this like generous way of trying to care for each other when we don't properly know the language yet. Um, so I'm not really moved by the sea or the dusk or the Ferris wheel because I'm moved by beautiful things. So I'm only looking at you. And I'll gesture to the games and did you win anything? You're not carrying anything. Over some conversation offer, do you want to try again? Also so proud that we both decided to try again. And all of this coming with the momentum of a second attempt for the fairy tales to be true. So I think I would also like to roll feel, as I also believe Jonathan does mimic how you seem sometimes trying to tap into how can I get one step ahead? How can I ambush them with a kindness until the right words are available? And I also roll feel with 2. Interesting. I'm going to go with you are misunderstood. Tell us how, and add 1 to my change. So I think he'll look at you, and on the face, like an entire life is coming to a moment. He's always gone so ahead of himself, always believing too much, jumping too purely. It's been a trait their entire life that again and again they find themselves alone, missing a piece that used to have a souvenir in it, once again, for the road. And so the way they are misunderstood is when he looks at you, he says, I don't know who I'd be if you were gone. And where it could seem as desperate, as clingy, it's actually an epiphany moment for him. Is also possibly this might not be a good thing, but he's accepting it in this moment and at least trusting you enough to share it as a vulnerability. But just like Sophia, he actually is looking forward to this once a year for the rest of his life. And I think that'll be his turn.
I think I'm just gonna go ahead and roll a feel right away, actually. Oh, I haven't gotten this one. Oh, 2, name them and learn what it is they treasure. So, she's having these thoughts of, well, voicing these thoughts of her fears to him, to her family, to her heart. She brings her hand down along the stone to brush off and clean the little bit of dust and dew that has laid itself upon this stone now, so she can look at that name a little clearer. Nathan is what it says. And she thinks, what would he say to what she has just admitted out loud? What would he tell her about what she fears, about her heart no longer being complete, about her inability to love fully anymore? And she thinks about what he would have wanted, what he treasured the most was her and her happiness And she knows that very well. He did anything, he did everything for her. And he would want her to be as happy as she could possibly be, even without him. With him, without him, as long as she was happy, she knew that he would have been happy as well. That's all he wanted. He treasured her above all else. And she thinks that she should learn to treasure herself, maybe the way he treasured her. She thinks that he would tell her to try to love as fully as she is able to, and that if she is not able to give her entire heart anymore, he would tell her that it's okay, that things takes time, and that as long as she does what she thinks will make her happy, he will be okay with it. And so she thinks back on her family, on how much they love her as well. And she knows that he would want her to try, to keep trying until things stop feeling so wrong anymore. And that is going to be my turn.
Even though I am walking away from the shoreline and I'm wrapped in a scarf and I have a big jacket on, there's something about when my hands or when my feet get cold, the rest of me seems to be cold as well. And I have my hands underneath my armpits and I'm frantically looking around for a place to warm up. And I see this couple off in the distance, and they catch my eye and hold it because they have their arms around each other, and the way that he seems to be looking at her, that that simmering anger in the pit of my stomach comes up like it's heartburn, and I am going to believe something. Oh, I'm so sorry to break the narrative, Rahrah, but I have a mechanics question. So if I have technically moved all the way over on my little heart scale, does that does
All
that
the
mean
way
I
to
turn
change.
all the way to change? Does that mean
Hmm
I turn into a ghost?
And you can describe that narrative flary as much as you want. It could be like my eyes become that of a ghost. Like feel free to have as much freedom with all of it
Okay.
as you want.
Okay, so in believe, I rolled number 6, which is you have a fear, say it, add 1 towards change, which puts me over the edge. So I am looking at this beautiful couple. What was me and my love 4, 5 years ago? And I'm so angry. And I have this moment where there is nothing from underneath my fingernails to my eyebrows to the spaces in between my teeth to my diaphragm. Just everything inside of me is anger and resentment. And Carmen, the pieces of her just seem to sort of come out because she can't live in that space anymore. She cannot exist as this creature that looks at happiness and bares her teeth at it. She can't. That's not how she wants to live. So Carmen is the air around this husk, and she realizes how afraid she is of the unknown, because that's what these past years have been, the waiting and the hoping and the writing and the dreaming and the waiting, never knowing for sure what was going to happen next. And if you can't know, you can't plan. And if you can't plan, you can't dream. And if you can't dream, you find yourself standing on a beach, scowling at a couple in love in front of you. And so the real Carmen before all of this, the ghost of her past life, who understood how to be happy through adversity, floats back towards the beach where the bench was.
In this moment, I think about taking my hands away from underneath my scarf. But then as I do, I think about how cold the air is and how it stings the tips of my fingers. And I put them back under my scarf. Um, but after I do that, I take a few steps towards you, Jonathan, and I'm going to roll a speak. Okay. I rolled a 2. Um, I think I take a beat and I look around at the lights around us and the noises, and then I look back at you and I say, how do you feel being back here in the now? And that'll be my turn.
And with the prompt of your move, I will roll a speak to tell you. A 3. Tell us of a love you've lost. Last time I was here and we met, it felt like the ending of something. It felt like going through motions because one was afraid of being alone in stillness, and sometimes motions are easier. Um, so whatever love I lost wasn't a healthy one, and it was a love of self that was lacking. I had accepted what was given because it was better than being alone. I don't feel like that now, but I feel just as overwhelmed. I hope that's not a hard thing for you to hear. I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but the world just feels so much larger now, and I didn't know that being so in love would resemble fear. I was never afraid before. But now every time a cloud passes in front of you or this Ferris wheel goes too loud, I'm afraid I missed a whisper, missed something you wanted to show me. And I think he'll pull up his camera of all the pictures he was taking out there. He is a digital and a film because, just two different souls right there. But on the digital, he just shows you picture after picture of tide pools, sand, dusk, and then your name written in sand. your name written in rocks. He's like, your name's not a prayer, but I say it. And I don't know what that says, but every time I do, I find you. That's how I feel. Just grateful. And that'll be my turn as we see someone just glaring at us from across the pier.
Um, sorry. If y'all saw that, my boom mic just fell. So I had to fix that real quick. So if y'all were wondering what all that was, I'm sorry. Sophia, now having voiced her fear and thought about how he would answer to it, and deciding that, yes, he would want her to try. He would want her to attempt to love again in any way. She looks at the stone and walks away from it towards that little station that is now standing in between her and the rest of the town. And as she walks towards it, she thinks of what she can do to try, what she can do to live her life as fully as he would have wanted her to, while still keeping his memory intact and keeping him in her heart and in everything that she does. And she thinks about maybe, instead of waiting for the last train like she wanted to, taking the very next one that comes along, because she knows that he would have wanted her to be with her family, to be surrounded by those who love her and who could still hug her and brush the hair off her face. And so she walks towards the light of that station, the warmth that it promises after spending so much time inadequately dressed for the cold in the middle of the cemetery. And I am going to roll a believe. This one's with one die as well. And so I rolled a 6 again. You have a fear and say it. And that does push me to ghost as well. So as she nears the light and the warmth promised to her in this station that'll take her away from here, from her past, from her fears, but also from a part of her heart and towards where the rest of it lies. She is afraid that she won't be able to, that she'll watch that train come and she won't be able to board it. She is afraid that as much as she knows he would want her to love as fully as she's still able to, that she won't be able to ever really love again. She is afraid that maybe he wasn't buried with a part of her heart. Maybe she accidentally took the whole thing out of her chest and buried it with him. She looks back, and now standing in between the station and the cemetery, she looks forward past the station to the sea, to those waves that remind her of him, the time that they spent together, where his ghost is probably still running in between the waves, looking back to see if she's there with him. And she walks towards it. She passes the station and she keeps walking towards the beach as she now, having spoken her true fears, does not know if she'll be able to leave. She joins him in between those waves, running around with him like they used to. And she will sit at the beach with the waves coming up to her feet and close her eyes and think of him. And that is my turn. Oh, you're muted.
No, I was just staying really quiet because I was lost in the story. So, I am a ghost. I'm me, but I'm not me anymore. I'm greater than that shell. I'm floating back towards the bench and I look and there's someone there now. It's a very old woman wearing a sari, and she looks over at me, and I know that she's a ghost too, the ghost of a moment. And I only have one roll that I can make now, so I'm gonna do it. Oh, I guess this is another mechanics question, Rahrah. All of my ghost moves, do they have to be towards the other PCs?
They do not. They could be even towards a monologue target in your mind. Feel free to stretch them however they'll stretch.
Okay, I rolled a 2, which is describe the beauty beneath the waves. So I look at this woman and I can tell she's the ghost of a moment. She smiles at me sadly and looks out towards the beach, and there are 3 of her grandchildren there, and they are playing. And I put out my hand and I put it on her shoulder because somehow I know that's what she needs. And I know that this moment was precious to her and that she can't get it back. And so I sit down next to her and I say, we're such strange creatures, humans. We have such small families compared to, well, and I gesture towards the ocean, compared to the creatures that are out there. They can have hundreds of kids in their lifetime, and do you think that they miss their individual children like we miss ours when they go away? Maybe we should be more like the seahorses and the dolphins and the crabs and the loving the whole and experiencing the whole. And time, maybe time and loss would be just a little bit different for us if we did. And I'm going to take her hand and I'm going to lead her to the water. And I want us to both go underneath, not too far out into the ocean, but just try to find what I was talking about, a mass of crabs scuttling along the bottom of the ocean, twisting kelp nets and the swarms of fish that live there. And we just float there for a little bit, watching a different creature and their family.
Okay, I'm going to roll a speak right now in response to what you just said. So let's see. Okay. I got a 1. Talk about the sea. I look right back at you after you say your little spiel. You know, I've imagined what it would be like to be back here in the now. It's so much the same, but also so different. One of my favorite parts about being here was the sound of the sea. It's like no matter where you go in this town, you always hear it. It's always there. You can hear it on both sides. And when you think about it, the sea always leaves, goes back, and the world still turns, and days are still had, and people still visit. One of the things I love, and one of the things that this place reminds me, is that the sea always returns home. The shore always welcomes it back from its little endeavor back into the underneath, whatever that may be. And it never questions. It never judges. It just welcomes it back with open arms. I'm not sure what else I can say except for that. And that'll be my turn.
Dear readers, we're going to be going to break just in a moment. When we come back, I haven't told them yet, but we're going to switch directions where it will go Kim, Suzanne, Yuri, and then myself, just to make it a little spicy. I hope you're all enjoying this fun and super exciting game that's real happy and like it's a heist but of your heart. And so we're going to take a little 5 to 10 minute break. We'll come back. I'll reintroduce why you should donate because it'll just get worse and worse if more of us are ghosts. And thank you so much, Diversity Saves, for letting us play this game here tonight. We'll be right back, everybody. Oh, interesting to see you here. Hi, I'm Rahrah. Myself and this wonderful table are playing Fall in Love Like Ghosts by the Sea, which is a one-pager romance game. Uh, my screen is still on the soft land. Just saying. I don't know if people can hear me. If you can, hi, it's still Rahrah. We will be going into round two of this game in a moment. And warnings for everyone, there is romance in this game. There is loss and regret and sadness and all those things in this game. There is not gore necessarily or violence, but take care of yourself. These topics aren't for everyone. We are using safety tools and had a session 0 where we talked all about being in love or being sad. This game is free. I was supposed to get a link during the break and I didn't. I got coffee. Imagine that. But if you find me on social media, I will post it tonight. In all the places, but it's completely free. If you just search it, you can find it. If you're going to play this with your friends, be careful. Have a session 0, have a conversation. There's beautiful stories to be had for those who treat things respectfully. So I encourage you to play more sad games, but be good to your friends. We are taking donations tonight. We are raising funds for Diversity Saves, which is a wonderful channel that does incredible work and is very much in line with, I think, a lot of our community views of bringing diversity to a space that needs all of our stories. So, we are taking donations. You can change things in the game from $1 to $50. Everything will change something. You can turn us into ghosts. You can force us to make rolls. We'll talk like puppets if you throw money at us. It's amazing. At the moment, we have 2 characters that are currently ghosts because they're not in love right now. And, sorry, maybe you should be happy, like Kim and I. That would probably do better for you. I'm real good at openings. Okay, I think we're just gonna start. I think I said everything I was supposed to say. Kim's nodding, so I'm gonna take that as yes. We will be going in a different order with May slash Kim, Carmen slash Susan, and Sophia slash Yuri going first with me at the end now, just to change things up a little bit. So May, my beloved, my brightest, would you like to take us into the story?
Yes, where we left off, I was telling you all about the sea, and I continue looking at you tenderly, and I think looking for some sort of look of recognition. And I think with that, I move myself to your side and I will interlink one of my arms with yours. So we're less of in a dance and more in a conversation. And I'll lead you further down into the pier. And I think as I do that, I'm going to roll a believe. Ooh, I rolled a 6. You have a fear and say it. As we're walking further down this pier, I start thinking and I start wondering. And the weight of the words that you said in my response linger, and it's ever so faint. but there is a twinge behind my ear that feels like being too much. I fear of being too much. I fear that this expansive love that I hold might be too much for another person to handle all at once. And so instead of trying to express that, we do an awkward dance in which I'm trying not to step on toes and I'm trying to make sure I follow the rules. And I worry that if I let myself feel that, to be that, that you may not want that. And so I continue to follow the rules and to do the dance. And I fear that I may not be able to break that. And that'll be my turn.
When we left Carmen, she was underneath the water with the grandmother, watching the sea life and marveling at this different world. I come back up out of the waves to find yet another ghost waiting for me. Sophia is there, and I'm going to roll. This one's just for you. Rahrah, what does that mean?
That is basically a free space for you to choose your own prompt. It is the only one in the entire game.
Thank you, universe. I think I try to shake myself off a little bit, realizing how silly that is because I don't. The water hasn't affected me. Nothing can affect me anymore. I'm gonna go stand in front of Sophia and ask, is this seat taken? So I'll sit down next to her, leaning back on my forearms like I'm basking in the sun, even though it is not the weather for that. And I am going to say, I came here to let go, to move on. But I think maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to look at her kind of with a question in my eyes that I don't say out loud. And that's the end of my turn.
Sophia watches as her love, as Nathan keeps running around the waves with a version of her from a year ago, and sees how happy they were, like nothing could go wrong, like nothing would ever be wrong as long as they were both with each other. And her thoughts get broken by another ghost who floats, asks to sit, and does. She watches Susan and listens to her. And I'm going to roll a little ghosty move. Oh, okay. Sophia looks at Susan and just says, "What do you think will put your heart at ease? What do you believe is truly what you are meant to do, what you are meant to be?" You know, sometimes what I think is best and what my heart wants me to do are not the same thing. And it's hard to know which one you should listen to. But I think that you look like you have so much more to give to the world. And I know this is comfortable right now as we both sit here. But just because it is comfortable doesn't mean it is right. Sometimes the things that are right are uncomfortable. As I lie to them and add +1 to their stay.
Amazing. Did you want to respond, Carmen?
I just wanted to say that as the speech from Sophia ends, I look over my shoulder to my shell, my husk, who finished staring at the couple and turned and was waiting to cross the street to go into the cafe to buy a warm coffee and sit with it. I stare after that part of myself as it walks away, thinking about what Sophia has said.
Thank you to Feral Moonbeam, the award-winning TTRPG performer, for that donation. I am one step away from Ghost at this point. I think while walking with May, as May kind of steps into this mindset of, am I too much? Am I too much? I think Jonathan felt that while looking for you, because he felt the illogical pull of that need, uh, and that it possibly would be too much. But the moment your arm went through his, and your worries began, his were calmed. I might be too much, but they might be big enough for it. We may not eclipse each other, but glow mutually. And I think during this stroll, we accidentally maybe find ourselves in line for the Ferris wheel. Maybe not deciding to necessarily go on it, but we find ourselves standing there, and we're at that part in our story where standing anywhere is comfortable. Being near each other in any line or any cue is just another opportunity for stillness and closeness, and still memorizing the way you move your hair out of your face, still being like, oh, so that's how she stands when her back's a little tired. Just everything being a new revelation, and still exciting. I think he'll be a little afraid to speak right now, always being one who will break the spell by a joke that's not needed, or a confession or an over communication that's not required. So instead, in the distance where the sun is finally setting, and there's that orange painting of light across the water. I think he'll pull up his camera, and I'm going to do a believe, hoping I get the art one, but I don't know if I will. We'll see. Unfortunately, no. 5. Am I blank enough for blank? I think as he's photographing this patch of light, he remembers other patches of light he's photographed. I think if he scrolled back in his camera, he would find one from a few years back in this very spot, right after he met you for the first time, and didn't want to forget the light, even though at that point it was stolen. It was a secret. It was something he could not speak about. He will remember the light, but at this moment, he wonders if he's light enough for heaviness, having always carried his own ghosts, and now all this leaky luggage has been added to it. And sooner or later, you wonder if the sum is worth the cost when you have those many wounds or that many ghosts that follow you everywhere. So at this point, he worries about it, but I think he chooses to believe that he is. That just by the sheer determination and wonder of the world may collapse, but I will take May to my favorite patches of light. The country might burn down, but I will show her moonlight painted across flower petals and faces of the brave all across this country with my camera, with a car and with a dream and a map. So I think in this moment, he decides that he's going to try. It's not going to be he saves anything for the swim back, but everything will be invested in the forward belief and motion. And if it fails, it fails. But he would rather his faith fail him rather than he fail it. So he is putting everything out at this moment as he's taking pictures of the light and listening to the way you shift in line.
As we find ourselves in this line, watching you pull up your camera as you do, I am going to roll a speak. So, fun development, rolled a 6, and I needed 1 away from turning into a ghost. As I watch you hold this camera up to your eyes, you're looking out into this light painted across the water, painted across the pier, spreading throughout the rest of this town. I give in to that little twitch behind my ear. And I try not to. I really do. I think that if I did, I think about if I was. And I think about how I couldn't burden you with that. And I worry that I burden you with that. And so in this moment, I think as I'm watching you very slowly, very quietly, I fade into that light that seeps into the floorboards of the pier and in between the booze and children running to their families, between the love and between the loss. And I think I just fall into that. And that'll be my turn.
Carmen and Sophia have been having their their back and forth. So I'm just gonna roll. So I only have one move as a ghost. Freebie again. Okay. I'm watching my shell enter the shell of my body enter the coffee shop, and I know she'll be in
Carmen,
there.
my apologies. Actually, Yuri gave you 1 point to stay with their move. So
Yes.
you would have pulled yourself out of being a ghost.
I don't have to go all the way back through
Nope,
the
just
hearts.
1 notch and you were right there on the border again.
Oh,
Mhm. That's my bad. We didn't even talk about mechanics. We just talked about love.
Yeah, so as long as you're not on the edge, right?
Hmm.
So if you do get another move to change, you go right back to
Back to being a
ghosty.
ghost, yeah. Mhm.
okay. That makes sense. In
And you're
my
so
head, I was
close
like,
that
look at
it's.
all these. I have to go all the way back to. Okay,
Mhm.
hold
But
on.
you can still play it off as though you're right at the edge of it. It doesn't have to be a full role play switch.
This is a good transition. I got this. Pivot. Um, I watch as the shell of my body enters the coffee shop, and I feel anxiety in a way that I know that this piece is about to end, because I didn't feel that way in the ocean. I didn't feel that way with the grandmother. I didn't feel that way making my art. And I stand from where Sophia and I are sitting, and I say, it might look like I have more to give. It might look like I so many things, but I gave. I gave years, and I gave of myself and my time, and it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough. So what else is there to give when you know you're not good enough? And I seem to vanish a little bit. And I am in the coffee shop with my hands around a warm mug of coffee, and there are tears running down my face.
Once back at the beach, Sophia is once more by herself, sitting on the sand, watching the echo of her lost love and a younger version, a brighter version, a happier version of herself running across the waves with him. And back with the waves at her feet, the cold seems to start seeping itself back in as the warmth of this fleeting presence is gone. I'm gonna roll a ghosty move. Ooh, I gotta decide who to direct this move to. Oh, okay. Uh, 3, remember who you were, tell them to flee. And as Sophia watches these specters of a better time. She looks around to see where that presence went. She hopes that to a better place, to a place where they can heed her advice, even if she herself didn't really believe it. But someone told it to her, and in the moment, it had made her feel better. So she passed it on to this wayward soul. And she hopes that to them it'll serve better than it did to her. She hopes that this soul would be stronger than she is, than she was, than she fears she will always be. And as she looks around to make sure to search and takes her eyes off of that happy painting in front of her, she looks up to the pier. There's so many people, so many couples, so much love in the air. And she spots two. She spots a couple who looks as happy as she remembers her and Nathan being the first time that they were on that pier together. She finds a couple, and as she looks at them, she sees herself. She sees him. She sees the memories of their time just flashing in front of her eyes. And it makes her smile. But something seems off as the woman seems to retreat into herself, seems to shy away from all the warmth, from the light. And as they had made her remember who she used to be, she hopes that this woman who has not known the loss that she now knows, the loss that currently plagues Sophia, she hopes that this woman will take that love and do as much as she can with it, embrace it as much as she can. Because she was in their shoes once, and it lasted so much less than she wishes it had. And she doesn't want that woman to have any regrets, because she can see herself in them. And she wishes that she hadn't shied away herself. She wishes that she would have embraced every single moment that she had with him while he was there. She wishes that she would have loved him to the fullest with her whole heart, and that she hadn't been afraid. She wishes that she could go back in time and be in that woman's position, still having him there in front of her, and thinks of all the things that she would do differently. She thinks, I would have given it my all. I would have loved him so much harder than I did. I wish I had the opportunity to go back and love him harder, love him more, love him with everything. And she sends those hopes to that woman through the breeze, the sound of the waves, and hopes that it reaches her ears. All of her hopes that she doesn't make the same mistakes that Sophia did, because you don't know how long you have I know it feels like it could be forever, like the moment will never end, like this is the rest of your life. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes a year is all you get. A year is all she got. And that is my move.
As you are watched while you dissipate into light, May, you also see Jonathan's hands kind of wave through it as it's gone. Not the first time he's misunderstood someone's light for them, and probably not the last. In the trails you leave before filling up these spaces between the rides and the carts and the holiday lights, he tries to write your name in the air, but it doesn't take. There's nothing there to press into but this space. But instead of calling out, though he wants to, instead of jumping on a bench with a name plaque to look to see if he can catch you from up there because he wants to, I think he's just going to speak. His hands go into his scarf, almost like a familiar image for you to find for safety. So I'm gonna roll speak as he just speaks into the open air. Earlier, when May said that Jonathan will always find her, um, it's true. As I rolled a 6, tell them why it would never last, and I fully step towards Ghost. Um, so after he's given up trying to write your name in the light that's been left behind, not the first time he's tried to write someone's name in the light they've left behind, um, you see him put the lens cover over his camera. You see him undo kind of a silly bow tie, almost like he looks embarrassed. Um, and he'll decide that he is maybe a little too light, maybe a little too silly. Maybe he plays too much. And now that he can't find you, he feels like maybe there's a reason you had to leave. So he stands a little straighter, tries to present himself a little more mature, not as happy. Because if I can't be that happy to follow you, then I'll be less happy. And where you blended into the lights, you see him blend into the shadows of the pier, like a dark room where he can go over the memories of you and hope something develops that leads him to where you are. He still can't write your name in the dark, but he tries. And that'll be my turn.
He's unsure of what happens. It all happens a little too fast for me to wrap my mind around it. But I feel the wind around me, and there's this sort of warmth and this sort of care collecting the light as it goes through around the beach and throughout the pier. And I find myself reconstituted on the beach. And I'm going to roll a speak in this moment. Rolled a 3. In this moment, though I don't know exactly what happened, I don't quite know how I got to where I am. There's this weight behind what I say next. And I think to myself how silly I must be to think that someone like you would ever think that someone like me was too much. And that I would even for a moment give in to that. And sure, we've had our weird, awkward little dances trying to figure out what's too much. That maybe we should stop all of that and maybe we should have a conversation. And that if you're with the right person, that you are never too much. And I come to that realization back to myself, and I find myself running across this beach, yelling, "Jonathan, Jonathan," as I run back to the pier. And that'll be my turn.
My hands are around this cup of coffee. I am openly weeping, and I look around me to see several people staring at me, because who would not be staring at a scene like that? There is a man about my age who is sitting at a little table closest to me, and it looks like he's going to say something to me. Like he's concerned and he should say something, but he's a stranger. And is it weird? I can see it on his face. And so I open my mouth to speak first, because even in my distress, I know I should ease his distress. So that is, oh my gosh, I rolled a 6. Tell them why it would never last. So I smile at him, and it's pretty grotesque. It's a smile of snot and salty tears and coffee in between your teeth, not an attractive smile. And I say, I'm okay. Thank you. It's okay. I'm going to be fine. I know what's out there now. I know what was the life I had here in this place. And everything is gonna be okay. Even if it had worked out, even if I had gone, or they had stayed, or we had changed, I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be easier than that. And I think I'm good to go. And he looks bewildered and nods at me as though I have said the wisest thing. And I leave my coffee on the table and I go back outside and continue back to where I left Sophia sitting.
Seeing the woman run back, Sophia smiles. She knows that her thoughts, her feelings that she had projected out into the sea salt air, the breeze reached her. And it makes her happy to see, to know that she won't have the same regrets. And she hopes that for them, it'll last more than a year. She hopes that for them, it'll last forever. As I roll a ghosty die. Mm. Okay, so I rolled a 3 again, but and as Sophia, smiling, turned away from the woman because she can't bear the sight. And it makes her feel so guilty that other people's happiness would make her feel that way. And it's not because she doesn't want the woman to be happy. It's just that she wishes that she was the woman. She wishes that she still had time. And then she spots the man, looks up at the pier, and realizes he is not where the woman is running to. And that fear of missing out, the fear of regret, of not saving them, of maybe there is nothing she can do. She sent the air, the breeze of the sea to change that woman's mind, to tell her that she was okay, that she was enough. But maybe she wasn't enough. Her efforts weren't enough. Maybe she can't stop them from going through the same things that she did and bearing the same regrets. And she urges the waves to pick up, to tell the man to turn around, that the woman he is looking for is looking for him. She tells the waves to tell the man, she is running towards you. She is calling your name. Can you not hear her? Do not leave. She is willing to try, so please try as well, or you will be left with regrets. Whether it's a year, whether it's a lifetime, will not matter. Because regrets don't pay in time. The regrets weigh the same, regardless of whether it was at the beginning, at the end of the story. And she hopes. She stands up and walks towards the man. Maybe there is still time. He can catch up. But please, please don't leave. And that is my turn.
I think for a moment, Jonathan is about to be lost to darkness. He's going to make rash decisions on the flip of a coin, like he always does when he feels cornered or afraid. But then he hears his name also mixed with an anonymous donation, and you see that shadow on him lift as he hears his name, having always wished someone would call out his name when he's lost in his own darkness, having always wished there was a ballast to calm him and to remind him of who he is and who he belongs to. So I think this time he's not afraid to yell. He's not afraid to jump on a bench with a name plaque on it and yell for May over the heads of everyone here. The circus light, the Christmas lights sparkling all around. He's head over everyone, yelling out for May with the Ferris wheel going behind him. And I'm going to roll feel, which I roll 2 die for, because he's trying to say what he feels truly enough that it will find May wherever she is. Okay, okay. I don't think I want to become a ghost right now, so I'll go with the other one. Connect with your heart truly. Tell us who you are right now. I think Jonathan feels manic in a way that is uncomfortable. Um, like maybe he emotionally stepped in it a little. They both just fled to light and darkness so soon into their love story. To already have to go into these corners, even for just a moment, is this a bad sign? Our courting was not very long. We both needed a reason to leap, and both welcomed the other in that risk taking. So there is a cautiousness to the way he wants to be overwhelmed and to overwhelm. There is a fear in the way he wants to be vulnerable. But I think in this moment, hearing his name echoed out over hindsight, so close to all these ghosts and so close to his own dark changing, while standing on this bench with the name tag, he hears it from out in the sand. How did she get so far away? He'll always find her. And regardless of whoever's in the way or what's in the way, whether it be oceans or worlds or bureaucracy or a few people on the edge of a pier, he will make his way through it and he will make his way over it. Away from the lights, he will find her in the sand near the sea because he always will. And that'll be his turn.
In this moment, I'm so busy looking ahead that I fear I almost run into you when we find each other again. And I absolutely just collide into you. And I look at you like I've seen a ghost, and that I'm looking and feeling your face and making sure that you're standing right in front of me. And I'm going to roll a little speak. Ooh, okay. I rolled a 5. I think as I'm cupping your face and I'm thinking about everything that I've just been through, and I notice you're not wearing your bow tie, and I notice I take a look deeply into your eyes and I say, I'm so sorry if I've ever made you feel like too much or not enough. And I'm sorry I was not honest about feeling like too much and that I gave into that silly, silly thought. I, for a moment, felt like what it would feel like to not see your face and not see what silly bow tie you decided to pick out for the day and what beautiful thing you found in the mundane, and that you found my name in another piece of rock and in sand. And I was so afraid of not being able to see the world through your eyes again. And although it was for a moment, I was so afraid that it was going to be forever. And that'll be my turn.
I think in that moment, real quick, he lets you touch his face to remind him that you're there. And then I think he'd kiss you there next to the sea.
I am crossing the street, barely mindful of the cars that are going past. Luckily, none come close to me. I pass the bench where I started this whole thing at, and I pass my old artwork that the water has finally begun to destroy. And I stand there and I wait. and I feel nothing but anxious. I am waiting. I am waiting to leave, to go under the water, to see new things. I am waiting and I'm wondering why it's not working. I've let go. I'm ready to be more, to for something else. And nothing is happening. There is no ghost here. There's just me in this body with these feelings. And I feel it again, that simmer of frustration, and I don't want it. Why can't I just go? Let go. And I'm angry and I open my mouth to speak. Oh, tell them how much you love them. What am I doing? Okay. I remember the girl who was here earlier and what she said to me. And instead of saying something profound, I just let my jaw drop as far as I can and I yell. And it's everything that I can't say or don't want to say. And I don't have to. If I don't want to say something, I don't have to. So I can scream it out, and the shorebirds fly away, but several of them scream back at the same pitch. And that makes me stop, and that makes me laugh a little bit hoarsely. And as I am laughing out of the corner of my eye, I see my artwork from the beginning start to decay, and all of the bones and kelp and empty shells and postcards begin to drift with the water. And one postcard bumps against my leg, and I notice that it's the one that has several lines of poetry on it, because they loved that and they would send it to me sometimes. And I don't need to pick it up to remember what it says. It was their favorite poem. I do not love you as though you were salt rose or topaz, or the fire of arrows the carnation shoots forth. I love you as certain dark things are to be loved, in secret, between the fire and the soul.
Just wanted to make sure.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. All right. That last donation was for everybody, right? For this day. Okay. Just also wanted to make sure. Oh my gosh, what to roll now? She's so full of emotion. She, as she had stood up from the beach while begging the waves to yell at this man, and she had turned to move towards him to also yell at him to turn around, she sees that before she can get to him, he does turn around and then stands there, now alone on this beach, watching them reunite, watching him kiss her with the pier and the Christmas lights behind them. And she takes a look back towards the sea because it's just so hard to watch. Not because she doesn't want them to kiss, but because she wishes she was them. She wishes they were them. She wishes she was back in that time where that was her and that was him. And it's just too beautiful to watch this love. And as she looks back to the sea, she sees the ghost of him again, laughing and smiling and playing in between the waves. And I will roll a believe. Oh, 3, you'll be holding on forever. Okay. And as she looks at the ghost of him, the ghost of her love, the echo that is left, she realizes that she's never going to be able to take him out of her heart. And she looks back towards that couple, backlit by the Christmas lights, with love radiating like warmth around them. So much it almost looks like steam. She realizes that she doesn't have to leave him behind, that she can take him with her. And realizes she has been standing in the middle of this beach staring, and looks away and starts walking, hoping that nobody saw, that nobody was watching her. Just staring at this couple and staring at the sea. And before she realizes in what direction she had started walking, she looks up and sees that she's walking towards that train station once again. And she is determined to not leave him here. She knows that these memories of him don't just exist at this beach. She knows that they exist wherever she is. And so she puts her hands together and feels her chest and feels her heartbeat and imagines that it's him with her. As she walks towards the train station, also realizing the time, she almost wouldn't have caught this last train and she would have been stuck here for God knows how long. And takes a seat in the warmth of the station, in the warmth of him, knowing that she can go back to her family, go back to the others that she also loves, and that that does not mean she is leaving him behind. Because you don't have to do one or the other. You can do both. And so she decides she will. And that is my turn.
Amazing. The kiss is like dusk, I would say. One of us coming back from being lost in darkness, one of us coming back from being lost in light. So there's this dusk and dawn that's happening here, possibly representing the birth and the end of dreams, new and old. In this moment, I think he's going to believe. In this moment of finding each other once again, they always will, but this time they had to find each other from further, and they still did. And for him, that is a hopeful sign. If we can reconnect in tenderness, what could we not overcome? So I'm going to roll interesting. Describe a dream of someday run away with me. All right, and after my turn, we will be on our final lap for our quick outros and everything. Describe a dream of someday run away with me. Well, we already kind of did that. I think he'll bring out a small wrapped package, a holiday paper, a bow. Clumsy, he's terrible at folding things. But if you were to open it, at first it'd be confusing because it's just another picture of light on a beach, this very beach, a familiar beach. But if you look far in the distance, you can see yourself in the picture on accident before you ever met. And he noticed it after you had first interacted. He remembered a name, a face, an exchange, but he kept finding you in all these pictures, hidden in patches of light. And it was the first step of a secret that he didn't tell her. That he didn't mention to her, knowing their story was already ending. It was a hope he clung on to reach the other side of whatever these waters were going to be. He didn't yet know you were a whole person. At that time, he just thought you were a star reflecting the brighter lights that surround us. So I think the dream that he would describe that he'd want you to run away with is where you find yourself currently, before he knew your voice, before he really knew the soul behind the movement of hair, behind the hands and the scarf. The dream he would have described is now, back here, choosing to start again from a place that maybe was a low point at another story, but can be a high one in the story to come. Um, and I think that will be his turn as he watches you open this gift. And we will now do our final rotation.
I open this gift that you clumsily wrapped, although I know that you're not too great at wrapping things. But I know that there's a lot of care and love behind it. And I take a look at this photo, and I am going to, for my last roll a feel. Well, I dropped my other dice, but it's okay because I got one I wanted. So I got a 5. Tell us how love has changed you. And so I take a look at this photo, this one of light, and funnily enough, see myself as a little ant in the corner. And I look up at the holiday lights and the pier, and I think my eye catches the Ferris wheel one more time. This giant, still operating Ferris wheel that sort of spins around. And funnily enough, we once went on that Ferris wheel, and I am not the most fond of heights. I won't say that I hate it. But if I had the option, I wouldn't necessarily choose to be involved with something with heights. The higher you get, the more it feels like there's a pit in your chest that you're going to fall. And I don't love that, and I don't love choosing that. But when I went on this Ferris wheel with him, that pit in my chest filled with light. And for just a moment, felt like it didn't exist. And that I knew in that moment that I was home. And that I was where I would be loved and I'd be treasured, and that he wouldn't let a bad thing happen. And I look at this photo and I look back up at him, and that same feeling washes over me again. And that will be my turn.
I'm going to roll a feel right away. Okay. Tell us how love has changed you. My scream dies off, and my throat is hoarse, and I cough a couple of times. And I feel good and a little stupid, but also really good. And I start slowly walking back for the second time towards the street. And I think back to what I had said earlier. The things we lose. The things we lose to become who we can't help but be. And I feel that anxiety again, but it doesn't scare me. I've always believed that if I was just enough, things would have been different. But after everything that's happened today, the things that I've lost are the pieces that made me feel like I was enough for myself. And it's scary to have to be good enough for yourself. So we've got high standards. It's easier to be enough for somebody else. And that has to go. She sheds that, like the scream and the tears and the postcards. This love unmade her. And it is time to put the pieces back together, just a little differently, but still together.
For my last one, I will roll a believe right away. Oh, okay. I got a 4. What does the sea think of me? As she sits there, this small train station, more like a train stop in the middle of nowhere, she feels the warmth of the light. She feels the sea breeze. She hears the sea. You can hear the sea wherever you go in this town. And she looks towards it across the train station on the other side of the tracks, the waves almost waving her goodbye. she thinks, as it looks back at her with its massive expanse, how much has it witnessed? So much love, so much grief. What does it think of hers? Does it even think of hers at all? Does the sea remember those memories the same way that she does? Does the sea remember the way they would dance in between its waves? She hopes it does. Does the sea think her silly? Does the sea think her foolish or brave for leaving it behind? As it waves her goodbye, she can hear the horn. The train is coming. She takes a deep breath as she takes in the smell, the scent of this town, of the sea, of her past, of her happiness, of her grief, and gets ready to go back to her life, this time taking him with her, determined not to leave him behind, but also determined to move forward and to use him as motivation, as a light to guide her, determined to be somebody, something, to do something that he would be proud of. Determined so that this same time next year, when she comes back to visit his grave, she is not visiting him, she is bringing him back with her to remember their love, to remember the sea before she takes him away from this place again. And as the train arrives, blocking her view of the sea, she exhales that one last time and boards.
Okay. I'm going to roll feel from the beginning because I have advantage and see if this is a nice little package. If I turn into a ghost right now, I'm sorry. Almost, but I do roll two of them. So, ask the playful wind what wonders go unseen. This is normally where you'd ask the GM, and the GM would take a prompt, but I will just do it. Um, I think a bunch of things go insane. I think first we do hear the train boarding in the distance. You can hear the ocean from everywhere in town, but you can also hear the train. So first the wind notices that, preparing to give it like a little shove forward, just to send it on its way with good tidings. I think the wind also sees tomorrow and a whole series of tomorrows. As far down to the right of the beach, in the distance, we see someone proposing. Far to the left, we see someone spreading ashes, and the tides coming in and out equally. I think the other thing the wind notices is May's name, because it's not a prayer, but I say it into their hair, into their neck. And where Sophia remembers dancing in the waves, there are two different people now actually dancing in the waves, and not the dance we do to not step on the hearts of others, but to keep ourselves so sensitive. But we are actually dancing in the waves, the Ferris wheel music in the background, as ghosts and broken hearts circle all around us. And as we always do, we find each other here in hindsight, with all the lights sparkling for each one of us. And I think the lights dim on the city. They always will. Um, but they'll be back next year, and I'm sure many of us will be too. Amazing job to my players. That was unique and different, as you know, we prescribe Um, I am trying to catch my mind and heart real quick because I have to do outros and stuff. I'm going to have everyone first say who they are, where they can find you, and then I'll give a little info on there's more games for Diversity Saves tomorrow, maybe even Sunday, at least Saturday. But let's go in the order we were going with my beloved May, and then we'll go Carmen, and then we'll do Sophia for the outros.
Hi there, my name is Kim. I've been playing May for you this evening. You can find me all over social media at Do on a Tree, do like DEW, like the drop. And you can also find me over primarily on 5 GMs in a Trench Coat. We are a TTRPG actual play podcast where we rotate GMs and TTRPG systems each season. Thank you, Rahrah, for asking me to be on this game. I love monologuing and being sad and also kind of happy.
Oh, me. Um, Hello again, beautiful people. My name is Susan Quintana. I am a teacher, a writer, a storyteller. I am the words. I'm the producer, host, editor of the Novel Games podcast. We have a website, novelgamespodcast.com. You can also find the podcast on any podcasting app that you use. I am also online, just hanging out, having a good time. Posted pictures of my food and my animals and the games that I play on Instagram at neither right nor wrong. That's right, like you're writing a story.
I guess it's my turn. Hey there, everybody, once again. Thank you so much to everyone for going on this wild roller coaster of emotions with us. My name was Yuri. I was playing Sophia. Yuri pronouns she, they. Y'all can go ahead and find me everywhere at Yuri and the Beast. I am currently the marketing manager for Tabletop Tail Spinners, a TTRPG podcast where we advocate for diversity without tokenism. So I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of things there and a whole bunch of things everywhere else. So again, that's at Yuri and the Beast everywhere on the interwebs.
What a fantastic table, custom put together by myself for a game such as this, and endlessly impressive. Hey, I'm Rahrah. I go by he, they pronouns. I run a little fledgling podcast called The Heart is a Dungeon. We're multi-award winning and multi-award nominated. There's a lot of laurels. We keep tripping on them every time we walk to the pantry. But the best part about it is the people I play with and the stories we tell. Those are the true laurels, the friends we use for laurels along the way. So if you liked the vibes of this game, you might like some of that stuff. Kim and Dryad, Susan, both show up in things. Yuri has not come out yet, but has recorded some things. So tune in if you like a bunch of BIPOC community. We're all about it. But speaking of BIPOC community, Diversity Saves will be having more games this weekend. There is a game on Sunday, 8 p.m. 8:30 Eastern. Passion de la Passions, the soap opera game. We'll see if they can be more romantic than us. We'll see. Doubt it. Tomorrow is Dread at 12 p.m. Pacific. I'm sorry, they're probably going to be more romantic than us. And Tea Time Adventures at 5 p.m. Pacific. So there's 3 games coming up where you can continue to fund a channel that's actually working on community and not just working on their channel. You heard me. You heard me out there. There's a difference between those two. But we want to thank this channel so much for letting us do this, for kind of giving me free reign to bring on the cast I wanted, because it's a beautiful and careful game, and I wanted to play it with true artists of sincerity, and I hope you all enjoyed it so much. If I've done this outro properly, I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Find the game online. It's free. Just so you know, it's like a quest now. If you can find it, you deserve to play it. If you don't, sorry, work on it. But from all of us here, have a wonderful night, and we'll catch you next time you come to visit Hindsight. Bye, everyone.